هذا البرنامج برعاية
حياكم الله مشاهدينا وأهلا بكم إلى حلقة جديدة بموضوعية. في مايو الماضي أعلن صندوق الاستثمارات العامة السعودي عن تأسيس مجموعة نيو للفضاء المملوكة له بالكامل لتكون شركة وطنية رائدة بقطاع الفضاء وخدمات الأقمار الصناعية. كما ستعمل الشركة على تحفيز خدمات الأقمار الصناعية والفضاء في المملكة وتطوير قدرات تسهم بتعزيز مكانة القطاع المحلي في هذا المجال المتنامي عالميا. نتحدث الليلة حول الشركة ومستهدفاتها ونحاور السيد مارتين بلانكن الرئيس التنفيذي لمجموعة نيو للفضاء. فأهلا بك معنا سيد مارتين وشكرا على وجودك معنا الليلة بموضوعية.
Thank you for having me.
هذا أول استثمار نشهده في المملكة العربية السعودية ربما يركز بالكامل على صناعة الفضاء. ب 2024 ومايو تحديدا تم إطلاق نيو للفضاء لتحدد الأهداف والمسارات التي تسعى إليها المملكة ضمن هذا القطاع المتنامي. حدثنا بشكل أكبر عن وجود نيو اليوم في هذا المجال، وأيضا ما هي الاستراتيجية الأساسية التي تركزون عليها؟
Thank you very much. The main strategy for the NEO Space Group is to be active in three domains that are currently deemed to be commercially viable. Firstly, satellite communications. Secondly, the geospatial domain, which is around Earth observation and remote sensing. And the third area is around the positioning, navigation, and timing. Next to that, we also will establish a venture capital fund that will invest in new space technologies and help them to mature over time, all with the aim to establish a mature space industry in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by 2030.
نعم، لكن سيد مارتن اليوم يعني قبل إنشاء نيو للفضاء كان استبقها وجود وكالة الفضاء السعودية التي أيضا كانت اتجهت لتحقيق نفس المستهدفات. اليوم كيف ترتبطون مع وكالة الفضاء السعودية، وإلى أي مدى هناك اليوم نوع من التداخل في المهام أم هي فقط عملية تكاملية؟
Thank you. It's an excellent question. I think it is important to stress that the Saudi Space Agency and the NEO Space Group operate in a fully complementary fashion. The NEO Space Group focuses on activities that are commercially viable. Our job is, among others, to generate a return on the investment that we will be making in the various activities I just spoke about. The Saudi Space Agency is more focused on space activities that are currently commercially not yet viable. So think human space travel or deep space logistics or deep space exploration, space logistics, and those sort of aspects. There's obviously a very close working relationship between both organizations, but as I mentioned before, it is fully complementary.
نعم. اليوم لما نتحدث عن عملية الاستثمار في المجال الفضائي سيد مارتن قد يعني لا يعرف معظم الأسواق ما هي مجالات التجارة التي يمكن أن يدخل إليها المستثمر في المجال الفضائي. فما هي القطاعات التجارية اليوم اللي عم تركز عليها نيو، وكيف نوعية الفرص اليوم التي تطرح بالسوق السعودي للمستثمرين؟
Yeah, how we look at the market is that we divide it into a so-called downstream market, which is all about providing meaningful services to end users, to customers, both in the satellite communications market, in the geospatial market, as well as in the navigation and positioning market. But next to that, there is sort of the so-called midstream market, which is all about owning and operating the satellite assets. These are the satellites in the sky, as well as the ground stations, not just in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but all around the world. Because in order to provide a ubiquitous and consistent service to end customers, you need to be active across boundaries. And because all these space assets circulate around and orbit around the Earth, boundaries don't really matter. So we make a distinction between the downstream, providing the services to end customers, as well as the midstream is managing the assets. We are not going to be active in the so-called upstream markets where we manufacture the spacecrafts or the user terminals. We do that in close collaboration with many partners across the world.
نعم، إذا ما حجم الاستثمار الذي تستهدفونه سيد مارتن الآن مع إطلاق نيو؟ ما مدى تجاوب أيضا القطاع الخاص معكم اليوم لتنفيذ جزء من هذه المشاريع؟
Well, the size of the investment will obviously depend on the opportunities that we will be pursuing. We're a relatively new company, so we are taking some time to investigate where to focus on first. And what we've decided to do is to start with the end customer and work our way inwards towards technology. So, for example, we have started to serve the aviation market. We signed a number of airlines whom we will be providing in-flight communication services. And doing so, we leverage satellite assets that we are currently operating and that was already in orbit, and to which we may be adding additional satellites in the future. But first, I think that is super important. It is important to understand where the demand is in the market, where do the opportunities lie. Too often, we've seen in the past where a lot of capital was invested in a particular technology, after which the idea was to find the customers, so-called build and they shall come. But we very, very consciously do it the other way around. We start with the end customer. Aviation is the first sort of capital rank in the satellite communications market, but others will follow. Oil and gas, for example, would be a logical next step. And then we'll work our way backwards and determine which satellite investments will have to be made in, and it's likely going to be in multiple orbits and multiple frequencies. So it's a fairly diverse set of assets that we will be investing in. The size of the investments is yet to be determined, but it will be quite sizable because unfortunately, if you choose to be active in the space economy, it just is not cheap, as in it costs a fair amount of money to bring assets into orbit.
وهذا ما أريد أن أسأل عنه سيد مارتن، يعني تكلفة إطلاق الأقمار الصناعية يعني وفقا للخبرات الدولية والعالمية حتى الآن، هل هناك مستقبل واعد ربما لخفض هذه التكلفة من وجهة نظرك؟
Yeah, that's a very good question. Look, in the past, launching satellites into orbit was very costly. Most of the satellites were geostationary satellites, and which circulate around 36,000 kilometers away from the Earth. It's quite expensive to get them there. What we've seen in the last couple of years are a couple of things. One is the cost to bring anything into orbit has reduced dramatically. From 5 to 10 years ago, we went from in the tens of thousands per kilogram. We're now in the thousands per kilogram. And when Starship will go commercial, we think that will come down to the low hundreds of dollars per kilogram to bring it into orbit. That's an important factor. Secondly, the size of the satellites will change as well. In the past, most of the satellites were quite sizable. And now there is a trend towards smaller satellites, but then many more of it. That is certainly true in the LEO-stationary satellites, so the low Earth orbit satellites, where you need very many to provide global coverage. But it's also true for the satellites that operate in the geostationary orbit at 36,000 kilometers. So both by reducing the size of the satellites, that will bring the costs down, and you can launch a few more of it, and the cost to bring them into orbit will reduce dramatically as well. So you get a much cheaper unit cost for the same amount of capacity relative to where we were a couple of years ago.
إذن إلى جانب التكلفة سيد مارتن، ما هي التحديات الأخرى التي قد تواجه هذا الاستثمار داخل السوق السعودي برأيك؟
Well, the challenges are on a number of domains. Firstly, there is a regulatory challenge. Quite a few parties are launching satellites, and it is very important that these launches are well regulated and well coordinated. And secondarily, it is super important that all participants in the space economy adhere to the rules as set by the central bodies. Those central bodies are not as forceful, for instance, as the terrestrial telecommunications market. So sometimes it's not inconceivable that there will be a few disputes over time. So there's a regulatory challenge. The other challenge is around the sheer volume of satellites that will be brought into orbit. It increases the risk that these satellites will collide, and therefore more coordination is required between the various operators. And on top of that, a lot of debris, space debris, is orbiting around the Earth. And when that debris hits these satellites, they can be severely damaged. So to coordinate the identification of debris and ideally the reduction of debris is very important as well. These are some of the challenges. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as you know, it's a very vast country, and the big cities are usually covered very well by terrestrial communications. But the more you move out of the urban areas, the terrestrial coverage gets less and less, and that's where satellite communications will play a more and more important role to connect these areas to the rest of the world, if you will. That's not just true for Saudi Arabia, that is true for many countries around the globe. Another opportunity is around the Earth observation. Saudi Arabia is one of the largest users of Earth observation, optical and radar images, to monitor what is happening in the country. This can be movements of sand, for example, or methane gas detections, or urban planning purposes. So the use of geospatial satellites, we expect that will go up quite substantially, and we are certainly planning to play an important role there. Firstly, by using these images and provide meaningful insights and answers to our customers, but also to ultimately operate some of these satellites ourselves, so that our customers have the highest possible priority when they want to use these satellites to get these insights that they need.
سيد مارتن بلانكن الرئيس التنفيذي لمجموعة نيو للفضاء، أرجو أن تبقى معنا. سنتحدث أيضا بعد الفاصل عن فرص نمو سوق الفضاء في المملكة مستقبلا. ابقوا معنا.
هذا البرنامج برعاية بك في ذا ستيرا، تصاميم داخلية بتوقيع أستون مارتن، المساكن الأفخم والأبرز حول العالم. اختبر رفاهية الحياة على واجهة بحرية على بعد 45 دقيقة من دبي. تحفة معمارية بتصاميم مبتكرة لا نظير لها. كن في قلب أحدث الوجهات العصرية وأكثرها تطورا. 5 دقائق إلى منتجع وين، الأول من نوعه في المنطقة. ذا ستيرا، تصاميم داخلية بتوقيع أستون مارتن. تداولات سوق العراق للأوراق المالية تأتيكم برعاية الكرمل للأوراق المالية، آسيا سل، أمواج.
كم بلغ اليوم حجم الاستثمارات التي جذبتها ميدار حتى الآن؟
وصلت ل$7 مليار في مدينة مستقبل سيتي. هي قيد الدراسة حاليا في أكثر من مدينة وتوسعات في مصر.
كيف تسهم ميدار في دمج التكنولوجيا اليوم في هذه المدن؟
احنا الحقيقة أول شركة عقارية في مصر خدت شهادة الانترنت اوف ثينجز.
سيو توكس على CNBC عربية.
البرنامج برعاية
نستكمل حوارنا الليلة مشاهدينا مع سيد مارتن بلانكن الرئيس التنفيذي لمجموعة نيو للفضاء. سيد مارتن أهلا بك من جديد. كنا نتحدث ربما عن التحديات، لكن اليوم بالنسبة للمملكة العربية السعودية كيف يمكن لنيو أو حتى الشراكات التي تبرمها اليوم مع الأطراف الأخرى أن تتفادى الأخطاء التي مرت بها سواء دول أو حتى شركات أخرى في مجال الفضاء برأيك؟
Yeah, thank you. That is a very good question. Look, we have the benefit of starting from scratch. So we don't carry any legacy. And we also have the benefit that we can learn from some of the mistakes that were made by other parties in the past. That is quite a unique position. Add that to quite a strong vision on how we think we can play in this industry, and with the backing of the PIF as our investor, we are, I think, well positioned to make a meaningful contribution to the growth of this economy. I think I mentioned it earlier, but one of the biggest mistakes I personally believe that was made in the past is the build and they shall come approach. It is very, very, very dangerous. I think it is incredibly important that we start to understand really, really well what it is that customers want to do. If you look at the satellite communications market, most needs for enterprises and government organizations can be addressed by terrestrial communications. The satellite communications provide an addition, a complementary service, but it is very, very crucial, because often when organizations operate in remote areas, be it airlines or oil and gas or maritime, there is no terrestrial communications available, yet it is super crucial that they remain connected to the home base and can communicate with other participants in the industry. And these communications are moving from sort of business critical to life critical. So it's extremely important that you provide a very high quality of service that is very resilient with an extremely high availability, that very seldom can be addressed by just simply one technology. You need to combine multiple technology, often fueled with intelligent software or artificial intelligence, to provide these meaningful and resilient communication solutions to customers. And the same would be true on the geospatial area. When customers want to make informed decisions where to mine, for example, or if they want to track vessels that traverse across the globe, these satellites that orbit the Earth, that monitor these things, if you will, are super important to help them to run their business more efficiently by being constantly aware of where their assets are. They can maneuver it, they can steer it in a way that saves them costs, gets there quicker, and also serves their customers ultimately in a better way.
نعم، إذا ما قرأنا في الأرقام سيد مارتن، يعني حسب الإحصاءات الأخيرة حجم الاستثمار العالمي في مجال الفضاء وصل إلى قرابة 100 مليار دولار. حاليا السعودية تتحدث عن 400 مليون دولار فقط في هذا المجال. كيف ترى الأرقام وإلى أي مدى هناك قدرة للمملكة العربية السعودية أن تتخطى هذه الأرقام ضمن خطتها لرؤية 2030؟
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the demand in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and in the region is already fairly substantial. Currently, it is predominantly provided by entities that operate from outside of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The demand is going to grow very substantially over the years to come. And that's the reason why the PIF has decided to build and to establish this company to start serving this domestic demand by a national champion, and that national champion is the NEO Space Group. That will require substantial investments in satellite assets, but it also will require substantial investments in people, in capabilities. One thing is to operate the technology, but more importantly is to translate the technology into services that are ultimately meaningful for our customers, be it in the government domain, be it in maritime, be it in aviation, be it in oil and gas, and many other industries for that matter. So the sovereignty aspect here is quite important. Some services can be provided by pretty much any operator who owns and operates these assets. But in some instances, it's very important that the assets are managed by a Saudi Arabian company and that the data is stored within the boundaries of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to preserve that sovereignty. And that last argument is a very, very important driver behind the idea to establish the NEO Space Group.
نعم، وهذا يعني موضوع مهم جدا سيد مارتن. موجود يمكن كتحدي لأغلب القطاعات هي توفر الكوادر الوطنية لتنفيذ الخطط التي تستهدفها الشركات. اليوم ما هي النسبة التي تستهدفونها من الكوادر الوطنية في هذا المجال ومن خلال شركة نيو، وكيف تسعون إلى عملية التطوير يعني للكوادر الوطنية؟
Yeah, it's very difficult to give exact numbers, but right now the NEO Space Group has approximately 500 staff, of which the vast majority operates here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the vast majority are Saudi Arabian nationals. We expect that number to grow very substantially over the years to come. Your question about how to find the right talent is an excellent one, and it will be a combination of using foreign resources who already have the experience and complement that with Saudi Arabian nationals who have worked in this industry either in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or overseas. And then thirdly, very importantly, recruit lots of talented people. And as you know, Saudi Arabia has a fairly young population that is extremely well educated, and educate them and train them to become experts in this domain. So the exact numbers are difficult to provide, but we're talking probably in the thousands of people that we endeavor to employ by the end of this decade.
نعم، نيو لا تكتفي فقط بعملية جذب الاستثمار، إنما لجأت أيضا لعمليات الاستحواذ سيد يعني مارتن، وهنا نتحدث عن تقنية ETS وهذا الاستحواذ الذي قمتم به مؤخرا. حدثنا بشكل أكبر يعني حجم هذا الاستحواذ، ما أهميته بالنسبة لكم، وهل هذا يعني أن هناك خطة لعمليات استحواذات أكبر مرصودة من قبلكم؟
Yeah, Taqna ETS is a very important acquisition because they are the leading provider of insights to their customers, mainly government customers, around geospatial data. So they use optical images, so photos, radar images, and other aerial images, combine that and use that and layer that and enrich that data set, and subsequently provide insights to their customers. So for instance, if you talk to the Ministry of Agriculture, they want to monitor the crop health, and satellites help with providing insights in how crops are developing. Ministry of Forestry would be the same. Ministry of Transportation, who want to monitor the quality of the assets, be it a railway, be it a road system. All of that will be observed from space. But just sending a photo in itself is not really helpful. So you need to provide an insight, for example, where the roads are broken or where the crops are not that healthy. And ideally, these insights are predictive insights. You signal that a problem might arise well before it actually does arise. Well, that is exactly what Taqna ETS is doing today for its customers. They have a leading position, and we will continue to invest in that business to serve more customers with even richer insights. Your other question was around further acquisitions. Look, it's very difficult to start a company from scratch and build it into a multi-hundreds of millions, if not billions dollar of business over the course of a number of years without acquiring capabilities. And that is exactly what we're doing. It's obviously very difficult to talk about it until these acquisitions are known and agreed upon with the seller. But you can rest assured that we have a vast many people looking into various opportunities as we speak, and we expect to be announcing some of them in the months to come.
أنتم اليوم أيضا يعني متواجدون في منتدى ربط العالم من السماء، وكونكم راعي أساسي لهذا المنتدى سيد مارتن، سمعنا مسبقا أيضا عن إطلاق بعض الصناديق الاستثمارية ذات رأس المال الجريء. إلى أي مدى من خلال هذا المنتدى سنستمع لمزيد من عملية الصناديق الاستثمارية التي ستطلقونها؟
Well, what we are going to do is we will establish a venture capital fund. And that venture capital fund will invest in young entrepreneurs, space entrepreneurs. And we will do that partially through an equity investment, i.e. we provide them money. But the idea is also to give them an opportunity to sell their services to the more established divisions that I just spoke about. And thirdly, also importantly, we will make some of the capabilities that we have available to these young entrepreneurs at cost or potentially even free of charge until they are able to develop a minimum viable product with which they can convince their customers that their technology is a good one and has true potential. And in doing so, we will hopefully give the space entrepreneurs, not only here in the kingdom, but in the region and potentially even beyond that, a boost to develop the next SpaceX of the industry.
سيد مارتن بلانكن الرئيس التنفيذي لمجموعة نيو للفضاء، شكرا على وجودك الليلة معنا بموضوعية وأعطائنا نظرة أوفى عما يحدث في قطاع الفضاء داخل المملكة. شكرا لك.
Thank you very much.
كانت هذه آخر التطورات التي تشهدها شركة نيو للفضاء التابعة لصندوق الاستثمارات العامة. لقاؤنا يتجدد بكم بالأسبوع المقبل وملف جديد من المملكة. دمتم بألف خير، إلى اللقاء.
هذا البرنامج